This is Fawn at Nights of a Psychopomp Groupie. Episode 3, Adversary. Being recorded in a different part of the house. And I think it's really significant because I'm in my husband's office. He works from home, so I'm sitting in his office. He's commandeered my microphone, the microphone he bought for me, so that he can talk to people when he's doing work and stuff. And that's fine. He bought a little boomstick, and so at least now I'm not having to hold the microphone, but I feel really silly sitting in my husband's office trying to talk about this stuff. It was nice and cozy in my closet. You know, like even Raven's not here. I haven't seen her. My husband's been gone for a couple days, so I haven't seen her, but it's episode 3. I can't believe it. I made it past the second one. It's been probably about a month since my last podcast, and it's been a real busy month because, you know, we had PantheaCon. I went to that. I wrote a blog post about that. I had to feel the wave of reactions from that from that blog post. If you're interested in reading, every year I go to PantheaCon. I write a little review about my experiences there. I don't want to write a review about the convention as a whole because, you know, I can't be everywhere, see everything or anything like that, but I can at least write about my own experiences because that's what you do when you're a writer. You can only write from your perspective. You can only write about your experiences. So, every year I do a PantheaCon report. You can find that on the website at psychopompgroupie.com. And it should be the first blog post that comes up after this one for this podcast. I'm finding that my role in this community is not what I thought it was going to be. When I was a young woman, just starting off in witchcraft and magic, it was in the mid-90s where we were just kind of on the precipice of what the internet was going to be able to offer magical practitioners and even people of alternative religions. And that's the really cool thing, is that we've had so much access, but we're at this point now where it's almost too much access. I didn't really have a teacher, so I had to do my own stuff. So I kind of took bits and bobs of what I could find and applied them. And if I was very results driven. My magic always has been and always will be. But I found a teacher who was Buddhist and taught me meditation, this and that. I've kind of gone over this story before, and I don't want to retell it every time I have to go into something, but I wanted to talk about this adversary theme and about where my role in paganism is, because I see witchcraft, I was fine. It was when I came out into the community, when I came out of my broom closet, so to speak, when I came out of the broom closet into community, that I found my views and my practices were very, very different than what everybody else was doing. I'm not saying it was better. I'm not saying it was worse. It was just different. And because of that, I've always I've been misunderstood. I'm not like, hipster gods, or hipster witch, I should say, who my gods are gods you've never heard of, and I practice things that, you're just not ready for. No, it's nothing like that. It's just I could not find deep spiritual connection in Wicca. I could not find deep spiritual connection in a lot of New Age stuff that was going on in the mid-90s. Wicca was becoming a very fluffy, happy, feel-good religion. They were trying to portray witchcraft in general as this cult, this witch cult that had turned religion. I just couldn't buy into that because I didn't see it as that. I saw witchcraft as an art, as a skill, and something that I was born with, and something that a talent that, people have innately inside of them. And so I just kind of stayed away from the Wiccans and did my own thing, but I could never reconcile it with my Buddhism until recently. So being on the outside and butting heads with people, is not a new thing. Okay. It's something that I wish I didn't do. I wish I could just be somebody who just sits there and bites their tongue and never says anything when they see something wrong happening. But it's just not going to happen. It's in my nature. I can't go against it. And I feel that the gods would not have put this talent in me or this perspective unless they had a purpose for it. My witchcraft, when I started to get into more pagan themed witchcraft, started worshiping and working with developing a relationship with pagan deities, it was at first it was a little forced, but I needed to do this because I felt that I had a service to contribute to the pagan community. I found that I was really, really good at networking. I was really good at doing like pagan meetups. I organized, I remember for years, I organized a pagan meetup at a round table, pizza, I think for a while. Before then, it was actually a coffee shop, and I would go. I was there every single month diligently. Even when nobody would show up. Sometimes there would go months with nobody showing up, but I still was there. And I would sit there with some coffee and a book and a little sign and wait for people. And I would get the weirdest looks from other people who had no idea what I was doing, but I didn't care because, I knew out there was somebody who felt like they were alone or were confused or didn't know what to do and that they needed some help. And there's the internet, but the internet is not really a good source. Okay. It's good for when you want to really do some research. There's not enough critical thinking going on, and there's not enough healthy skepticism in our community to really utilize that as a tool for access to information. And I knew this even in the late 90s when I was just a little witchlet. I mean, I wasn't even old enough to drink, but I was, facilitating a coven. And that was cool too. But the thing is that it kept growing. The group kept growing, and I did it. And we tried to establish an inner court so that there would be an inner court and outer court, and people got upset about that. And I was just trying to please everybody, but I just found I couldn't do that. And it really burned me out. I was only 20 years old. I didn't know what I was doing, but there's all these adults. To me, they were adults. They were people who were in their 40s who were new to this, something I'd been doing for 5-6 years. I mean, that were wanting me to teach them and do all this stuff. And it just got to be really overwhelming. I stepped out of the limelight. I don't want to say limelight because nobody knew who the hell I was. I'm still a nobody. Okay. But I stepped back and said, you know what? No, this isn't where I need to be right now. There's more work I need to do on myself before I can start helping other people. So I did that. And I backed off a little bit, just had my little group of people. And then when I started going to university, it's in another town 40 miles away. I started doing the meetups again because I figured a university town there would be a better quality of occultists and pagans and witches, and there was in some ways, and in some way, a lot of ways there wasn't. But I still kept doing the meetup. I found a coffee shop and would do it there, and I did it for months and months and months, and with nobody showing up, and that's okay. And then some people showed up, and then I started, kind of reaching out, and because I was a religious studies major, I was asked to go and speak in classes about the history of witchcraft, specifically Wicca, even though I wasn't a Wiccan, but I knew enough to at least be able to give an accurate portrayal of these religions. And, so I tried to be an educator. I tried to be somebody who can network, and I would just always run into trouble. I didn't instigate, at least not that I think I did, but because I have a fairly conservative personal view on things, and it doesn't clash well with the, women breastfeeding their 5-year-olds and, vegans and feminists who won't shave their armpits. I got friends like that. I think that's cool if that's what you want to do. Do what thou wilt. Really, even before I proclaimed myself a Thelemite, I really believe that. But don't try to put me in your cookie cutter thing. Okay. I'm not like the rest of the pagan community, and I'm okay with that. I'm on the fringe of the fringe, and I'm a little proud of that right now. I got to say, because it's paying off. It's paying off. I don't drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Unless there's LSD, I'm not drinking it. So So anyways, long story short, like, so, in all through my 20s, I did all this work and totally underappreciated, but I did it anyway. And then I just got burnt out again. And then I went deep. I went really, really deep. And that's what I found. I started looking at the darker stuff because, for so long, I just really didn't want to touch anything that was dark because there was this whole stigma surrounding it, and I mean, even Crowley was considered dark in the 90s. And so it was just really did not want to touch it. So it wasn't until I went really, really deep that I started looking at things, and I started reading a little bit more this idea of the adversary and as a, maybe as an archetype, because a lot of you people out there seem to be able to understand what archetypes are. I mean, but being an adversarial person is something that I just have. I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm a fighter. I can't help it. But I'm not one of these justice warriors either. And that's what I need to talk about because I've been trying to avoid it. I don't want to talk about the current political and social climate right now, especially within our community, because I've been on the other end of it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with this being an adversary. I can see both sides of any story, but the thing is I know there's more than two sides to anything. I know that the world is not black and white. I know that it is not gray. It is a whole rainbow of colors. Okay. And everybody's different. To really understand somebody or a situation, you have to really look at it within context. And I think that people are starting to lack that. They're zeroing in on one concept and not looking at the context from which it is coming from. A good example of that would be a statement I made on my blog. This is a religious community. I get that, having been somebody who studied religious studies academically, I understand different perspectives, different religious views, and how community works together, and that a lot of religious communities have a history of doing social justice work, Christians in particular. That's great. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a good way of bringing people together who have a common view and putting them giving them a goal or a focus to, besides just going to church every Sunday and doing your prayer circles and stuff, but actually getting in the streets, protesting, praying with prisoners, there's lots of ways of being a religious activist, and that's cool. I get it. But for me, witchcraft is not a religion. It is a spiritual path. And as such, we are not normal people. Witches are not normal people. You can pretend all that you want, but you are shiny. Okay? You can't go to a grocery store probably without some dead people or some spirits following you around. Okay? And you're aware of it. There are people who just walk around that have all this stuff and never even know, but we are hyper aware of it. Okay? Given that we are hyper aware and sensitive to each other, especially, the way that we are treating each other in this community right now is disgusting. Okay? I don't care what end of this argument, whether you're all lives matter or Black Lives Matter, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in our community. And I'm going to tell you why. We are creatures of spirit, not the flesh. How are we supposed to live vulnerably like this? How are we supposed to act compassionately towards each other when we're yelling at each other, when we're pointing fingers at each other, when we're telling each other to check this and that you're triggering this and this and that? Okay, toughen up. You're a fucking witch. You're supposed to have thicker skin than that. How are you supposed to traverse the outer edges of the universe when you get upset because somebody said something? I don't want to devalue people's feelings, but own them and be responsible for them, because really you are the only one who can control yourself. Other people do not control your feelings. You do. And if you can't have no self-control, then what kind of fucking witch are you? You want change in the world? Do it. You're a witch. Manifest it. Cast a spell. How hard is it? It isn't. If you're a witch, it's not hard at all. It's going to take some work, but don't be calling other people out when they're just trying to do their own work. This is what I was trying to explain in my blog post. by the statement of I don't care about racism. Because I do. I deeply care about it. It affects everybody. But within the context of a witchcraft convention, I don't see where it has a place in there. I don't see, I guess if you're an activist, it's part of your craft. It's maybe that's part of your magic, I guess. I'm really just trying to understand and where your perspective is. Because I'm coming from a very opposite. I'm not even coming from the opposite, because I'm coming from this third, and this is the thing. This is where I think my adversarial nature comes out, because I'm always this third path, right? My first Pantheacon I attended was, I think, in 2011. And I had never been to a skyclad ritual. I'd never been nude in ritual, even by myself. I'd never really been nude before, and because it wasn't really necessary. But I was excited because the Budapest was there, and they were giving the self-blessing ritual. Apparently, it's a ritual that they've always done at Pantheacon and outside of Pantheacon. But this year, a group of people decided that they were going to protest against the ritual. Not that they were going to protest Z Budapest, who is somebody who I have respect for because she's done a lot of good work in our community. But let's just face it, she's kind of become a feminazi. And, she's trying to make amends, but I think she's gone a little too far with excluding our trans sisters from ritual. But I wasn't in charge of that ritual, okay? The Pantheacon people have allowed this ritual to go on for, I don't know, 20 years, 10 years, something, and never been a problem before. But now, because one person was denied, they threw a fit, made it really public, and made a stink about it. Everybody jumped on that and decided they were going to protest. Protesting is fine when it is pointed in the right direction. And this was not pointed in the right direction. This was pointed directly at a group of women who were wanting to go and participate in this ritual. Z Budapest wasn't even standing there. Okay, she was off in her room somewhere. And why didn't they go protest in her room? Why didn't they protest Z Budapest? Why did they have to protest us women? We weren't doing anything wrong. And I watched slowly as women started to leave the line. I was the very first one in line. And I watched as women walked away because they were intimidated. How is that okay? Yeah, sorry that you're hurt that you weren't allowed into a ritual. Boo-hoo. Go make your own. Other people were. There was an all-men's ritual. A lot now. There's tons of every ritual pretty much has to allow, unless it's a private one in a hospitality suite. All the other rituals are supposed to be very inclusive of everybody. So I'm like, okay, but religion is not an inclusive thing, anyways. So then I went in anyway. I went into the ritual, and let me tell you, it was the most empowering thing. Those people standing out there made me even more empowered and even more proud to be who I was. I was the first woman to take off her clothes. And I'd never been naked in front of a group of women like that, except for like in the locker room. And it was so empowering. And I stood in front of that mirror and I blessed myself, and they empowered me, and I could hear the people outside chanting and this and that. And I took it on, and it empowered me more, and I just grew, and I grew in size. And then I felt invincible, and I'm like, no, my blood is indomitable. And then when we were all in circle, at least 3 of us women all started menstruating. So that's magic. That's magic. That's manifesting. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not sorry. I'm not going to apologize, because that's magic. So that's what I mean by being an adversary. I tend to by accident be on the other side of things. And you know what? Sometimes I'll even do it on purpose. I'll play the devil's advocate just because I'm tired of hearing the same voices. And that's kind of where I started at first with this whole social justice movement within our community. At first, I was kind of excited about it, but I was like, okay, I hear a lot of people saying the same things, but it's not a popular perspective. I myself am not racist at all. In my personal life, I don't allow people who are racist to say things in front of me. If they do, I stop them and call them on it and, tell them, hey, if you're going to be around me, please don't talk like that. You might, but because I know that deep down, you can't control how people think. You can't change the way that they're conditioned. It's not my job to change them all. And plus, I know that it's just never going to work. People are entitled to think the way that they want to think and feel that the way that they want to feel. And it's not my right to do otherwise, to try to change them. But I don't have to accept it as my own ideology. I don't have to accept it in my life. And I don't. And I think that is how I help this social justice movement. I teach my daughter. I teach the children around me. I've worked in after-school programs where we're teaching tolerance and stuff. I do the work. I don't have to go around calling out other people to make a difference because I'm stronger than that. To me, it's a waste of time. You know, when I was in my undergraduate work, I did a lot of classes in new religious movements where we talked about ethnic minorities and religions and things like that. And I've seen the movements and I understand. And at the same time, like I wrote papers about the white supremacists because they are doing what they think is also a social justice movement. They are using the same tools as Christians, and they are Christians, like Christian Identity and the Aryan Nation and all these other groups. I don't agree with what they're doing, but our Constitution protects them. And it took many years of my professors hammering it into my head to change my mind. Because before, I hated them. I thought they all needed to die. I thought they all needed to leave and like go to their own island where they could just go be white people forever, you know, and that they would be happy that way. Or we could just kill them. But then that's being like them. And that's what I see happening in our community right now. I see people being haters. I don't see people listening. I see people calling me out on having white privilege. I see people calling me out and saying that I am a Nazi sympathizer. I see people trying to call me out on this and that. And I don't care. You can call me anything you want in the world. Nobody's talking about what to do. You want everyone to think this, think that, say this, say that. How about some doing? Are you out there doing something? Okay, I know that there's some of you who are attending protest. I mean, some of you guys were going out there to help support persons of color while they were protesting. That's great. But I'm a white person. This is not my battle to fight. I will support you in whatever you tell me to do. But me ranting and raving about other people, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, I needed a drink of chai. I got a little excited. I feel like Rush Limbaugh right now. I'm instead of the angry fat white man, I'm the angry fat white girl. I'm checking my privilege. This is me checking my privilege. My appropriation with my chai. I'm a white girl drinking chai with soy. Please. I'm too busy. Practicing witchcraft and making magic to care about this stuff. You could squabble amongst yourselves. The rest of us are just going to be out in the world doing the work. Why do I need to brag what I'm doing? If I'm doing it, I'm too busy to be bragging about it. Come on. Getting back to the main point. This is all collectively about what my role in this community is. And it's not a fun role. It's not. I have people throwing magic shit at me all the time. I have people attacking me online. I've got people trying to start whisper campaigns against me. And it's always really funny because I don't care. Something happens when you just stop caring. It's so liberating. It's so freeing. I'm not a leader. I'm not a pagan leader. I don't have a tradition that I'm trying to start. I'm not trying to sell some books or anything. So I'm free to just do whatever the hell I want. And there's something really great in that. I don't have to ask for permission to do what I want to do. And to me, that's being a witch. That's being a witch. It's liberation, magical liberation, woman liberation, man liberation, human liberation. I think it's the mystical path of the Western tradition. We're meditating, we're journeying, we're healing people, we're hexing people, we're manipulators of the universe. Then start manipulating, get some doing in there. Don't just talk about shit, do it. Anyways, let's take a break.
of all evil.
Okay, we're back, and that was Luna 13 with Feminist Satanist from his album Phantom Bass Queen. I love this guy. He's Luna 13 is the recent incarnation of Mr. Jade Soul Luna, Asterian astrologer, Hecatean priest, and just awesome left-hand path dude. He, if you're into Hecate, I'd suggest you check him out. His earlier chanting albums are probably some of the best. I love them. They're some of my favorite. Hecate Nicticula is one of my favorites. Anyways, I'll put a link to his site so you can check him out. I'll play another track of his from a different album probably. Sorry for the rant. I didn't mean to go off for half an hour, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I had a lot to say. I do want to take time to talk about what I mean when I'm saying I'm an adversarial advocate. I think we have to take apart those words to really understand, and maybe you identify with this as well. So I started thinking about the word adversary and what it means. Some figures that are considered adversarial, some examples of people or characters who would be considered adversarial would be Shaitan or Satan. The word Satan means adversary. It's actually a title. I find Lucifer or even any kind of Luciferian witchcraft to be adversarial in nature. Loki, Seth, Morgan Le Fay, Nemesis, Discordia. There's some Dakinis out there, I'm sure, that are adversarial. But the best one I wanted to talk about, because I got a conversation going online with some of my friends, and it turned really deep. I didn't mean for it to, but it got into a really deep conversation. The Looney Tunes cartoons. There was a recurring character, Wile E. coyote, and he was always trying to catch or kill the Roadrunner. I'm sure many of you guys remember this cartoon. And when I was looking up the adversary, it made me start thinking, well, which one is the adversary in that relationship? Is it the coyote or the Roadrunner? Because really it's a matter of perspective. Think about it like this, okay? The Roadrunner, what's he doing? He's just running somewhere. He's on a road. It's not like, well, some of the times he's on a road. I think sometimes he's just running through the desert aimlessly. But where is he going? Where is that Roadrunner going? He's just running. The coyote starts chasing him, so he doesn't really have anything chasing unless there's something else that he's running from that we're not seeing. So there's him. Then so I guess he's the hero, right? Just like Bugs Bunny is a stinker, but he's always the hero in the story. And the antagonist is the Wile E. Coyote. That's his name. And he is always trying to catch this Roadrunner. He's hungry, okay? He's out in the desert. There's nothing to eat. And here's this Roadrunner running by, and he thinks he can catch it. So, but he doesn't just try to catch it. He's not like using his natural wiles, right, to get the Roadrunner. He's got to be like, an engineer. He's got to build stuff. He has to order from Acme, who is this kind of IKEA-like company that you buy stuff like Roadrunner traps or whatever, the different things, the different tools, the different technology that he uses to try to catch the Roadrunner. But the thing is that if that's him as the bad guy, does that mean that the coyote or that the Roadrunner is indifferent to the coyote, that he would be running regardless if there was a coyote there or not? Right? He's just got his head down and he's just running through. But the thing is that the Roadrunner is almost like a magician. He doesn't have to follow the rules of physics like the coyote does. Okay? Perfect example. The coyote paints a tunnel on a boulder, right? The road to try to trick the Roadrunner, and he hides. I'm sure that's usually the scenario that happens, and he hides. Here comes the Roadrunner. The Roadrunner's running, and he runs right through the pretend tunnel as if it was a real tunnel. The coyote doesn't understand what happened, so he tries to run through the tunnel. Of course, it's a boulder, and he hits his face, and he passes out. He gets knocked out. So that's what he has to obey. All these laws. He has all these rules that he has to obey. But the Roadrunner doesn't have to. So this is the thing. It's like, who is the adversary? Well, the adversary to the coyote is the Roadrunner. He's like the thorn in his side. Could he just forget about it? He could just go after like some rabbits in the desert. He could go after some birds, larger animals. There's lots of other options. He's in the desert. But why does he keep going? Because he's fixated on it. He knows he has to stop the Roadrunner. But what happens when he stops it? There's this conflict there. And that's what being or having an adversary is that there's this opposite to self. There's this conflict. But at the same time, it can be a process of self-illumination. That is, illumination brought on by one's own actions versus the actions of a guru or of a deity. This is the part of the process of apotheosis, self-realization, transformation. One becomes a true spiritual warrior. One becomes a truth-sayer, an oath-breaker, a gadfly like Socrates, a libertine like Marquis de Sade, a rebel. To the other people, it might seem evil, dark, and archaic, without order, chaotic. And that might be true, but to the person that's there in it, it doesn't seem at all. The Roadrunner, it's taking personal responsibility. It's a trickster. It can go through boulders. It's mutable, ever-changing. It runs against the current. It needs to be stopped, right? The coyote needs to stop the Roadrunner. So I think this is a powerful archetype to look at when considering issues even surrounding ethics, personal ethics in witchcraft. in your life, because thinking outside the box gives you a perspective of other. And that is something that's very rare. To be able to view a position objectively, it is taking personal responsibility. I only seem to find it in little niche corners of the occult world. I have to say, of all the groups of people out there, the people I have found to have the most personal integrity are the Thelemites and the Satanists. They don't allow others to persuade them. They have, their own, they allow others to be who they are. They're too busy to care about what's going on over there. And I kind of like that, because they get shit done. This podcast has been adversarial. I recorded it once already, 2 weeks ago. Took a lot of time for me to edit it, got it all up, thought I had it going, and I did not check after I uploaded it, and that was on me. And so this time, it's more technical issues, and it's just because I'm just so overwhelmed with so much from school and work right now that it's unbelievable. And it's good. It's good being busy, because I stay out of trouble this way. Anyways, let's have another song. And this is Fawn with Knights of Psychopomp Groupie. And we'll be right back.
Where do you think bass comes from? 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 Where do you think bass comes from?
Hey, I love that track. I can't help but dance when I hear that. That's Invocation to the Seven Seas. That's the Left Hand Path mix by Jade Soul Luna. That's off of my absolute favorite, most favorite album, Revenge of the Burning Witch. Every single song on that album is good. I'm sorry. I think it's his opus as Jade Soul Luna. I know he's burning some trails right now with Luna 13, and I dig that too, but of his work as Jade Soul Luna, this one is by far my favorite album. If you are a musical magician and would like me to feature your music on the podcast or do a review or anything like that, just visit me on my website at psychopompgroupie.com. There should be on the About Me page, there should be an email address. I should double check that. So if you want to get in contact with me, that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, you can email me at Wytchfawn, that's WYTCHFAWN, all one word, at gmail.com. You can also find my profile there on Google+. I kind of like Google+. I can do more of my witchy stuff on there than the Facebook. The Facebook, I've got family on there who, they still find my stuff shocking, but I really hold back on there. So if you really want to see what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, definitely check me out on Google+. Otherwise, I am on Facebook. I'm trying to get away from having my personal page as my public page. So there is a page on Facebook for Psychopomp Groupie. This is Fawn at Nights of a Psychopomp Groupie. I would like to thank you for your support, and your feedback is always welcome. Anyways, this is Fawn from Nights of a Psychopomp Groupie, the podcast. And this has been episode 3. Anyways, thanks, folks. See you next time.